everyone, welcome to episode 108 of the arieknits podcast. My name is Ariel and this is a video podcast where I talk about all the things that I have been knitting and spinning on for the past week. Today it is Sunday, March 2nd, and I'm hoping that I can put this video out on the same day, although a little bit later in the day than I normally do. But I was a little busy this past week and weekend, and so yeah, I'm just trying to find the time to film right now. And I'm really excited to share with you all what I have been up to, because even though I've been really busy, I have also cast on like 3 new projects this week. So some of them, well actually all of them, I'm very excited about. One of them is a test knit. One is one of my Make 9 from what I'm planning, my Make 9 for this year. And so trying to make progress on all of those things. And so yeah, it's been really fun. And I have some normal, just like updates on my knitting, spinning updates, and like one acquisition, but been really happy with the progress and the things I've been working on lately. So let's get right into that. Let's first talk about, because maybe you've noticed, I am wearing one of my finished objects from last week. It is now washed and blocked, and so it's actually in its final form now. This is the Seaway Pullover by Ozetta. The yarn I use is Harrisville Designs Daylights in the colorway Bloodshot, and I knit size extra small, and I use US 7 needles or 4.5 millimeter needles to knit this. I believe that is I just use a recommended needle size, and same for if I size down for the ribbing, then I did that, and if not, then I feel like actually maybe one of the ribbing was a size down needle and one of them was not. So, but anyway, final measurements I got on this is 36 inches in circumference, and so that's about 6 inches of positive ease on me. I will stand up now so that you can see the sweater. So here it is. It blocked out really nicely, and you can see like the sleeve length here is actually like perfect sleeve length for me. My wrist is right here, so it's kind of like right in the middle of the ribbing part, and so it's a really nice length where I can just grab it to like hold, keep my hands warm if I need to, but keeps my fingers nice and free. Here's that bottom ribbing. It is a nice comfortable size. It is not cropped at all, and you can see that drop shoulder is really nicely does that drop on my shoulder. You can see the ribbing up here. It's not, I was worried that it might be too, because the ribbing at the neck is pretty long, and I was worried that it was going to go too high up on my neck. But I actually really like the length that it is around my neck. I think it's perfect. Any more, it would have been a little too much, I feel like, but I'm very happy with the fit on this. It's very comfortable. The yarn definitely has bloomed really nicely. I think it did soften a little bit. Maybe part of that is just like after washing and blocking, it's just like a little less stiff, right? Everything kind of relaxes a little bit. And so the cables are nicely like relaxed and draping really nicely. The sweater still has structure though, but it's really nice and comfortable. There's still lots of room, but not feeling like super oversized like in the arms. The cuffs too don't feel overly large. Like I think it would still slide down, if I try to pull it up, but they don't feel like they're flopping everywhere while just like wearing the sweater normally. And so overall fit is super nice. It's very comfortable. I think it'll be very warm, and yeah, I'm looking forward to wearing this even more. And if you watch Emily Curtis, Gently Chaotic Knits here on YouTube, you'll know that she has made like this exact sweater, and I basically copied her on this with pattern and yarn choice. So now I can wear this and officially be twinning with Emily, and so that makes me really excited, and I love it. I love the finished object of this so much. I love the color. I love the design. It was a fun make. It was pretty quick to make. Working with this yarn was also really nice. I think I talked about it a little bit before, but just to summarize, like this yarn is like a woolen spun yarn, I think, or at least a woolen type of texture. It is a non-superwash. I believe it's Cormo yarn fiber, and it does feel quite different to work with than your kind of like normal superwash merino or just like a merino wool. But it has this really nice airiness and this, like, you can just tell that it's going to be a warm, like, knitted object, just, I guess, because it is just so light. And it's a bit more rustic feeling, but it's not pokey or itchy. You know, like, maybe if you have really sensitive skin, that this might not be for you, but it does have this nice softness to it, but still woolly kind of feeling, and I really, really enjoy that. And so it was a nice, like, it was a good knit to work on while I was knitting with my other kinds of yarn, because it just, the experience was really different in, like, the fingers in your hands while you're knitting it, but I loved it. It was really great. I am looking forward to using this yarn again at some point in the future. Maybe not this exact colorway, but like maybe instead of daylights, the nightshades I think is what it's called, which would be really cool. It's a similar concept, except the base of the nightshades yarn is like black, and this one is like a white cream neutral color. So I love this. I'm very happy with it, and yeah, again, I just like can't wait to wear this more. It's already so comfortable. Feels like a no fuss type of sweater to put on and still look, you know, like put together, like I'm wearing a nice cute knitted sweater. So really happy with this result. And yeah, let's move on to the whips of this week. So I'm going to start off with the ones where I just have like progress to show you, and then at the end of that section I'll show you all of the new Cast Ons that I started this week. So first up, I want to show you one of my test knits. This is the Maeve vest by Emily Chen, and this is a all over like cabled vest, and if you've heard me talk about it before, I am absolutely obsessed with the armholes on this because it is cables. It's the braided cable all the way around the armhole. It is such, the way that she has the instructions is that it is basically seamless around the top part of the armhole, which is, it was so crazy when I did that. It was really cool, and so that is like the standout feature to me on this. But besides that, you know, it has a beautiful cable, like crossing stitching right in the center front, cables and seed stitch all the way on like the side, just kind of like surrounding that, and it is the same on the back. And so now what I am doing is working through, and I did finish the neck ribbing. So now I'm just working through the body. If you can see, I think that this is I'm gonna hold it upside down. This is my stitch marker from last week, and so I worked just a little bit, maybe like 2 inches it looks like, maybe 1.5. And I'm almost there. I'm almost to the bottom ribbing for this. As you can see, it actually looks like a body to a vest now. So I'm almost there, but the place that I stopped because I've reached the end of my second ball of Suri. And so that was kind of like a nice spot to be like, okay, I'll put this down. I made good progress for the week, put it down, and so I can talk about it on the podcast without being attached to too many balls of yarn, which is kind of a nice thing. I am attached to still this ball of yarn, but because I'm working with 2 yarn, a different kind of yarn at a time, it's just nice to be attached to one when I'm talking about it on the podcast. Speaking of yarn, the yarn I'm using for this is the Royal Bee Yarn Company Fingering Weight, which is this one. And I don't think that there was a colorway name on it, at least there wasn't a name on the tag, but I did buy it from Flock this past year. And then the Suri I'm using with it is Sewrella yarn Suri lace in the colorway Cashmere, which is just a slightly more gray pink, but together I think it looks really nice and works really nicely together. I only have 2 skeins of this, and so I'm not concerned at all, like I will have enough to finish. with the fingering weight. And then I did have a total of 3 skeins, I believe, of the Suri, and so I've just finished the second one, and so I really just need the third one to finish up the rest of the body. So yeah, so I'm making good progress. I'm looking to finish this within the next couple of weeks, I think. So it'll be great. I love working on this. As I work it up, it just keeps looking prettier and prettier, and I'm really, really excited to try this on and just wear it forever, because I have been really into wearing my knitted vests lately. Like, I think I went through, again, I feel like I've said this a bajillion times, but I, in the beginning, was like, how do you wear vests? Why would you wear a vest? What's the point? And then I was like, oh, okay, I get it, but I just don't know how to wear it and because I never really wore vests, I was always like, I never thought, like, oh, I would like to wear a vest today. I had to like, almost like make myself, like tell myself I knit a vest and I should wear it. And I knit a whole bunch of vests, I feel like last year, maybe even the year before. And now I feel like this year I've actually been like, I want to wear a vest. Like, I would just be like, what do I wear today? I'm like, I feel like wanting to wear a vest. And so I feel like I've been wearing more vests this year. Maybe you probably can't tell because I'm not wearing them on the podcast. I usually try and wear things that I have recently finished on the podcast. But outside of the podcast, I feel like I've really been wanting to wear my vest. And so now I'm like, I want even more knitted vests. But anyway, that's just to say, like, when this vest is done, it's going to get a lot of wear from me. So really, really looking forward to that. Size information for that. I'm knitting size 1. I'm using US 4 needles, 3.5 millimeter needles to knit that. And I did have to size down to meet gauge for this vest. I think part of the reason is because the pattern calls for DK weight yarn, and I'm using a fingering plus Suri, which is usually around DK weight, but I've found that it usually is kind of like a heavier DK weight versus just like one strand of DK weight, and so I did have to kind of like size down to get my gauge to be a little bit smaller. And yeah, okay, that's all the sizing information and stuff about the Maeve vest. I love it. I'm excited for it. Okay, next up, let's talk about, I have made significant progress on this one this past week. I would say this project, or if you're not counting my new Cast Ons, I think this project I've spent a good amount of time on this past week. I'm kind of shocked because I think I made a ton of progress. Okay, here is my clay sweater by Ozetta. The yarn I use is Woolberry Fabric Coat Rambouillet Worsted, a note on that later, in the colorway Stargazing. It's a really pretty purple, a light purple color. And I'm knitting size extra, extra small. And I'm using US 8 needles, 5.0 millimeter needles to knit this. I think that's correct. And I think that is probably the recommended needle size. And yeah, okay. I remembered this from before, but last time I talked about this, did I have one sleeve done? Or did I have part of a sleeve done? I think that I had a part of a sleeve done last week. So I think that I was here last week on the first sleeve. So that means I finished the first sleeve, and then I also finished the second sleeve. Both same length. They look pretty short, which is kind of funny. I felt that way even about the Seaway pullover, same designer. Sleeves look short, but it's because it's really like drop shouldery, and so it really kind of like adds to that sleeve length. And also it's a pretty wide sleeve, so I think the dimensions just kind of make it look kind of short. But that's the sleeve. Both sleeves are done. Did I have the neck done last time too? Unclear, not sure, but here's the neck ribbing in case you haven't seen it before. Here's the back. The back is nice. It kind of looks like it's poofing a little bit here, but I think that's just from the shaping, and blocking is going to fix that. But it has that nice shoulder detail where that pickup is from the back to the front. I love that right there. And then I have just kind of like rejoined back in the round for the body, and so all I have left to do is the body, and then I'll be done with the sweater. So I love working on this sweater. I think part of it is that it feels like it works up so quickly, and the stitch pattern in it, you can see it's kind of like stripes, but instead of like colored stripes, it's like patterned stripes. So it's stockinette and then garter stitch, and then just a little garter ridge, and then it repeats. And so that's been really nice to work on. It's, you know, it's like easy to memorize, and so I can kind of like work through the rounds and then be like, oh, okay, it's time to change to, you know, the garter stitch, or, you know, something like that. So it's been really nice. Also, because the yarn I'm using is worsted weight, the pattern's supposed to be DK weight. So that was a note that I wanted to make sure to talk about. The pattern is DK weight. I don't know what in my mind made me buy the worsted weight and be like, I want to make this sweater. But when I bought this yarn, it was specifically to make this sweater, and so I'm just making it work. My gauge is a little off, and so it's a little big, but I think it'll be okay. I guess the one worry though I have is if I'm going to run out of yarn, because, you know, the yarn is thicker, the garment's going to be bigger than the pattern size, so, or the schematic. So, you know, that is a question, but I will show it to you. I'm actually not too worried. I think that this might be like 70 grams right now. I'm at this part of the body. There really is, I mean, it's really like right under the arms right now, so it's not even cropped. It's like shorter than cropped right now, so I can't finish it now, but I have like 70 grams of this plus a full skein. So I have a full skein plus 70 grams left, and I think that that'll get me through the rest of the body. So I am not concerned. But it is kind of making me knit through it a little bit faster. I think that's the other part of it, just because if I'm worried about running out of yarn, it makes me work on a project a lot faster. I actually have another example of that pretty soon that you'll see. So yeah, that's just how I, for some reason, like to work through my projects. But I'm not super worried about this one. I really love how it's looking and how it fits right now. It fits great right now. And yeah, so now everything's simple now. Just working the body, and then there's some ribbing at the bottom hem, and it should be good. Okay, one thing I did want to talk about is, if you've noticed on the ribbing, it is a 2x2 rib, and it's a tubular bind off. And so usually what you would do to do a tubular bind off for a 2x2 rib is you rearrange your stitches so that you do a tubular, and so it really is just a 1x1 rib bind off. And so kind of like right at the edge of your cuff, I'll just hold this one up, is really just a 1x1 rib at the top. And I've always done it where when you rearrange your stitches, I think the way that I've always done it is where you would rearrange when you do, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. When you do that like twist with your knit and purl, right? So that you can, instead of the two knit stitches being right next to each other, you switch it, right? You do kind of like a cross, kind of like a cable, but just with a one stitch or two stitches, one crossing over the other. And I've always done it where the knit stitch goes to the left. And so you'll see it here. I think you can see it pretty clearly. You can see those kind of weird bumps happening, and that is that knit stitch just going to the left. To the left. Yeah. Yeah, you can see it pretty clearly right up here. But it's never really bothered me enough where I was like, I need to do something to fix it. It's just the way that it is, and kind of, you know, it's kind of cute, like kind of looks like there's, at least it's consistent, you know, so it doesn't really bother me. But it was something I've noticed. And then just the way that the sleeve, for the sleeve, cuff, the way that it happens is that you actually start with, usually for 2x2 rib, right? You do knit, knit, purl, purl, knit, knit, purl, purl. But for the sleeve, because you have to accommodate for, here's like right under, there's a slip stitch kind of fake seam thing that looks right at the bottom of the sleeve, just so that the pattern can be, you know, continuous or doesn't look broken up. You actually start each round for the cuff. It's a knit, purl, purl, knit, knit, purl, purl. So you start with just one knit. So what happens is, instead of rearranging your stitches with your knit stitch leaning to the left, it actually leans to the right. And I think that this makes it look a lot cleaner, at least for me. It must be the way that I am doing those like twisted stitches, but I think it looks a lot neater going to the right. Versus, I guess I should try and hold this up. Could also be because it is a smaller circumference that maybe, you know, something different happens there. But look, I just think it looks so much cleaner. Like, you don't really see those like little bloops happening on the sleeve cuff here. And so I'm thinking maybe in the future, if I do a 2x2 rib and have to do a tubular bind off, or want to do a tubular bind off, that I would actually just rearrange it so that instead of leaning my knit stitch to the left, I would lean it towards the right. So that was kind of like a cool realization that I had while working on this. And I thought that that was really nice. And if it's something that you would also want to try because you want to avoid those little bumps that happen, maybe give it a go at leaning to the right instead. Or maybe if you have that problem with it leaning to the right, lean it to the left. But again, you do have to like, you can't just like do the same instructions, but instead to the left, you do it to the right. Like you have to kind of move your stitches around probably, or have the start of when you do that, just like one stitch off. But either way, just something that I wanted to share with you all because I thought it was really cool. So this is my clay sweater. It's working out really nicely. I really, really like how it looks. Now that it's finally looking like a sweater. Like if I hold it like this, you wouldn't know that the body's not done. But it's looking really nice. It is a hefty sweater, I will say. It's quite heavy, but I'm really looking forward to having that soon. The weather is still kind of cold, although I feel like this past week it's been warming up, and so I'm like, ooh, I would like to get somewhere out of that sweater before it gets too hot for it. But yeah, it's working out really nicely. Okay, and then, this is a project that I don't work on. Like, I feel like I don't work on it every single week. But I did work on it a little bit this week, and so I did just briefly want to talk about it. This is going to be a project that lasts a pretty long time, I think, unless something happens and I get a big burst of energy to just go through it. But this is my Birch Pullover by Andrea Mowry. It's looking pretty much the same, I think, from the last time you've seen it. I'm still just working on the sleeve. So I feel like this past week was like a lot of sleeve knitting, but I guess that's just been Birch and the clay sweater. So I'm still working on the second sleeve on this, but this is my cute little stitch marker right here, and so I got through a couple more decreases on the sleeve. That's actually a pretty good amount considering that it's in fisherman rib stitch, and that it's just, you know, small needle size, just a sweater that takes forever to knit, but end product is, in my opinion, totally worth it. I am using Explore Knits and Fibers Earthy Sock in the colorway Bainbridge Island, which I love everything about the color. And also, this is my first time, I believe, using the Earthy Sock base from them. And it feels really nice. It's soft. I would say not as soft as the Woolberry one, but maybe it'll pill less than the Woolberry non-superwash fingering. But it's really nice. And I'm knitting size 1, and I'm using US 2 needles, 2.75 millimeter needles to knit this, which is the recommended needle size for this pattern. So just wanted to show you a quick update. I didn't forget about the Birch. It's still on my mind, still working on it, but just slowly. Okay, and then, okay, now it's time to talk about my new cast-ons. I believe that this is all of them. I've actually had plans to cast on even more things this week, but it didn't happen. But let's get right into my new cast-ons. Okay, I think that this was my first cast-on of the week because I wanted to cast this on with Megan, although we kind of just did it like on our own time and sent each other pictures. But finally started the Grid Gambit. It's a cowl pattern by Samantha Guerin, and when I saw this, I think I even saw the call for testers or something for this, and I was like, oh my gosh. At the time, I couldn't test, or either, I mean, I probably just didn't have time, or maybe she, like, it already happened and I missed the call, or I don't know, but didn't test it, but I knew I was going to make it, and so when Megan was like, I also want to make it, I was like, okay, I'd be happy to make it together. So we finally both cast on, I believe. I think Megan the last time I heard, she was still figuring out colors for hers, but we are using Handspun for this. And for me, I'm actually using all Handspun for my main color and my contrast color. It actually looks way different on the camera than in person, I feel like. I mean, it looks like it, but it looks way more in pattern on camera than in person for some reason. But anyway, this is what I have so far. I've knit through a good chunk of it, I feel like, for the week. And let me hold up the yarn choices for this. So they're both Handspun. I'm really excited because initially I was looking at yarn and I was like, I don't have Handspun that I want to use for it, so I might want to spin for it. But we want to cast on like pretty soon. And so I was like, I'll take a look through my stash again. And then I was like, oh, I remembered that I had one extra skein of this one. This is, the fiber is from Big Little Yarn Co. It was Rambouillet, and it's in Satsumaimo pie. So this was her Pie Day fiber. And I got 2 braids, and so I had like 2 skeins of this, of Handspun, and I used one of them for a test knit for Bridget. It was the vice versa shawl, and so I used 1 skein of it, but I had a whole skein extra, and I didn't have plans for it, so like this would be great, but then what would my main color be? And I was looking, and then I was like, oh, I wonder if I have enough yardage of this one, this Handspun. This was the fibers from Sincere Sheep. I got it from Flock last year, and this was their Merino and Angora bunny fiber. And so it's really soft. It is just like a light brown color, and there's like little, you can tell like the Angora bunny fiber, I'm pretty sure, is some of the white that's in there. But I was really like, this was like 4 ounces of fiber, so it's kind of like 1 skein of yarn too. And I remember thinking I want to use it for something kind of sort of special, and something where I would be able to feel it, because it is pretty soft. And I spun it woolen style, because I think the fiber might have been woolen prepped as well. So this was a really fun knit, and I mean a really fun spin, and I thought that it came out really nice, and so I wanted it for something special, and I was like, oh, this would be great for a cowl, because then I can kind of have that softness, or that, you know, that Angora bunny softness around my neck is something. And so I just needed to make sure that I had enough yardage, and I think I do. So again, I'm not like too concerned. It actually looks like I will have like a ton of extra. It seems like, I mean, this cowl is going to continue to grow. I still need to do increases, but I'm not concerned about running out of yarn, which is great. So this is going to be an all Handspun cowl, and I already like want to make more of these, just because I love the idea of like each section of being like, you could use minis to do different color for each kind of like row of this like pattern. I think that would be so cool. I mean, obviously Handspun with like a color changing yarn, or like a what's it called? And just any color changing yarn, doesn't have to be Handspun, is like so perfect for this. And mine is a bit more subtle, as you can see. Like, it really is just majority different shades of purple with some kind of like tan sections, but it's mostly like purple. So this will be kind of, I think, just like my pretty neutral, understated version of this, but I would love to make more versions of this and just like maybe a really color changing hand spun one that changes in different shades and like not just like shades of purple, even though I love this and I think it's so pretty. I love it, but I think that it would be really great to experiment with all different kinds of colors, and so that's really fun. Really happy to be using like all my hand spun in this. Knits up so nice. I love knitting with this one, my woolen spun Merino Angora bunny fiber. It feels really great. There's something about it that I really, really love how it feels, and so that makes me happy working on this. I mean, I love working with the Rambouillet Satsumaimo pie as well, but the other one just feels so different from my other hand spun that it just makes it feel extra special. So yeah, again, this is where I'm at right now. I'm really happy about it. I think I just finished. I wanted to get to a point in the pattern where there's like different charts in it, and so I just finished one of the charts, and so that'll be a nice place for me to put my stitch marker to signal, you know, last podcast, but also where I am in the pattern. So that'll be super nice. And yeah, it's mosaic knitting, so it's not really color work where you have to kind of like switch your yarn throughout the row. It's mosaic knitting. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah. So you're only working with one yarn at a time. So you do like a knit, you knit it back and forth, and then you switch, knit back and forth with the one and switch. So it's super nice. I-cord edging, and so you can hide your, you know, when you're switching the yarn in the I-cord at the edge, and so that's super nice. And yeah, so that's been a really fun project to work on. It is a one size pattern, but I'm pretty sure you can, you know, should be easily modifiable once you kind of understand how you're building out that cowl. But I'm just following the pattern, and I'm using US 7 needles, 4.5 millimeter needles to knit that, and I believe that is a recommended needle size. And yeah, that was a really fun project, one that I was looking forward to casting on for a very long time, so it feels really nice to have it on the needles. And then let's talk about, I started another test knit. Let me just clear my area right here. Okay, I started this test knit. This is, and I talked about it before, I believe. This is for Tori U. This is the Avenue Tee. And wanted to make sure that I made good progress on this week because it's a fingering weight tee, and for some reason I feel like fingering weight tees feel like they take forever sometimes. So again, I just wanted to get a head start, so I kind of just like knew where I would be. But here's what I have. It looks so bright compared to like everything else, all the other colors that are like literally around me. This is super bright. The yarn I'm using for this is Explore Knits and Fibers Linen Sock. So this is their new base in the colorway Beet Juice. So this was from the Farmer's Market collection. And it is also one of the yarn, the linen sock yarn is one of the ones I think Tori used in one of her samples. And I have a feeling, maybe she mentioned this or something, but when this pattern comes out, I think Explore Knits will probably have kits available, probably in the linen sock base. So it's going to feel super nice, perfect for like spring and summer. And so, of course, that means this is my first time using this yarn base from them, and I think it feels super nice and soft. It doesn't, you can see the linen parts in there, but compared to, it is a merino and linen, but compared, I have it right here so I can like read. Oh no. Okay. So I can read it to you. It's 80% non-superwash merino, 20% linen, 437 yards for 100 grams. So I have 2 skeins of this, and that should be good for me to knit the size 1. I'm using US 4 needles, 3.5 millimeter needles to knit this. And it feels really nice and soft. It feels kind of like silky, but not. But I think that there's something about that linen that kind of has this like smooth, soft texture to it. It feels really soft. Doesn't feel rustic. I think there was like another linen, like a fingering linen yarn that I used before that felt really like planty. So I don't know if maybe I'll have to go back and check to see if maybe that one had more linen content than the wool. But this one feels super nice, and I would really like to get more, I think, of this yarn, like the linen sock base from them, because yeah, it feels really great and would be super nice for a cooler feeling fabric to wear. So that's super exciting. As you can see, I am making the V-neck version. There is going to be a crew neck version of this tee as well. So yeah, it is worked top down, as you could maybe tell. Let me show you the top of the shoulder, because that shaping, it was pretty cool. Oops. So everything is worked. It kind of looks like there's like a mini saddle shoulder kind of thing going on, but it's all knit at the same time. Like, you don't have to knit this small little strip and then pick up on the ends. It's just all done with increases, and then the sleeve kind of gets just like built out with increases that kind of, you know, continue on from there. So that's been really nice. I am connected. I split the sleeves and I'm connected under the arms just a little bit, maybe like 1.5 inches or so, I feel like. So now it's really great at this point, because now I don't have to read the instructions too much. I just work in the round forever and ever in stockinette, right? So I feel like this is a good place for me to be with this, and I just can't lose steam. I don't think I'll make maybe this much progress, you know, next week, but I'm just happy to kind of have this like top part done, and for the rest of it to be pretty easy. Of course, I still need to, you can see that I have the sleeves on hold, so I'll have to go back and do that, and also do the neckline. But I will probably do that once I run out of my first skein, and then, you know, start the second skein by doing some of the finishing and probably the sleeves. The sleeves are short, but just to kind of like finish those up. So that's probably the plan for this one, but this has been, it's been great. You know, it's a new yarn base to try, and I've really, really enjoyed it so far. And so as I say with most my knitted things, I am excited to have this done so I can like wear it and see how it wears. But specifically for this one is like, because of the yarn base, like I'm really excited to see how this wool linen yarn base kind of feels on the skin, to where it doesn't feel like it'll be itchy like at all. So I think that that'll be great, but I do kind of wonder like how warm or cool will it be wearing throughout the day. So that should be super interesting. And yeah, I feel like I'm making good progress on that. And then my last cast on this week was kind of what happened when I realized that I wasn't making, because I finished my Seaway, and my Seaway pullover was on my Make 9 for 2025, and my first finished Make 9 for 2025, then I was like, oh, I don't have anything on my needles right now that are from my Make 5? My Make 9 list. And I was like, I should probably have to make sure that I reach this goal, like I should always make sure that I have one of those projects on my needles at all times. I can have multiple, but I should always have at least one. And so I was like, I need to cast one on. And part of the reason was I couldn't figure out which one to cast on next. Like I was like going in between some of them, and I was like, I was just like, you know, when I think about, I'm like, I'll think about it while I'm knitting on this other thing, and then I get distracted. But I finally picked one, and I'm almost done knitting it. Which maybe is a hint to you on which one it was, if you remember. Let me hold it up. It's a teddy vest. This is the teddy vest by Sari Nordland, And I think that it is the only, I want to say it might be the only non, like, full sleeve sweater on my Make 9. I could be wrong, but it was it's a shorter project than all the other ones, and so I was like, you know, to make sure I'm, like, kind of caught up. Not that I'm behind yet on my Make 9, but I want to make sure I'm on at a good pace. Let me start with, or continue with, a shorter project. So I cast it on, and as you can see, it's already looking like a vest, and this is actually, well, if you look at it, you can tell it's boucle. So let me talk about the yarn. It is Explorinits Boucle DK in the colorway Tawny, and yeah, so it's a great brown color that I was like, well, it'll be great for a teddy vest because it's like a bear, a brown bear kind of color. So, and here's the thing, is that I thought that I had 3 skeins of this for some reason. I had 2. And when I looked back at the pattern, I was like, 2 seems to be yardage-wise should work, although this is not the recommended yarn specifically. It was a different kind of boucle yarn, held double for this pattern. And so, held double, this should have been enough yardage, but I think because it might have been a bit of a thicker boucle than the one that Starry Nordland used. It's weird because my stitch gauge was good, my row gauge was a little short, and so when I had to knit to certain lengths, I'm pretty sure, you know, I ended up using more yarn, and so I played a bit of yarn chicken. This was like the first time, is it the first time? Well, first time in recent that I feel like I've actually played yarn chicken with this, because I had to kind of like undo some knitting, take that yarn and knit it in a different section. But let me show it to you and talk about it. This is knit top down, and it's not done yet, but I've used all. There is no leftover boucle yarn anywhere. This is all of it. It's all in here. It's knit top down, and shaping might be kind of hard to see, but you can see that this is the armhole shape. It's also like a V-neck kind of deal. There's and there's supposed to be like a button thing or a clasp that connects right, I think, where that V-neck kind of like ends. But then it goes straight down the middle. It's curling in, so again, hard to see. But then there are, I'm trying to, okay, there's some shaping that happens at the bottom hem, front and back, that makes it look, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to hold this. So if you look at this front, right at the bottom, and the yarn is kind of dark too, right at the bottom front, it decreases a bit in here. It angles this way, and then there is kind of there is a split hem that happens right on both of the sides, which I'm realizing actually maybe the other side is better because I have needles attached to the other one. Okay, this one might be a little better, and maybe the way that my stitch holder is kind of shaped, you can kind of see what's happening. So this is the front left right here, and this is like the side of the body, and so there is some decreases that happen, so that there is this kind of like curved shape that happens, and it's also like a split hem, like this part is not attached at the bottom from the front and back. So I hope that makes sense. And what happened was, I also put in a lifeline. I don't know if you can see that, just like right across here, because I was like, maybe I would just have to rip it all back till there to conserve yarn. But what ended up happening was I knit, because you have to break your yarn right at the end, right, because it's not attached. So I did the right front shaping, and then I did the back shaping, and then when it came to the left shaping, I ran out of yarn. Actually, was it the left shaping? No, sorry. I think the left shaping happened first. Left front, then the back, then the right front, because that's where all of my all of my yarn tails are, right here. And I ran out of yarn for the right front, but it wasn't by a super significant amount. Like, I think I needed to knit like 4 more rows or 6, but it's short, right? It's just this. So what I ended up doing, long story short, although I already talked for a very long time about it, what I ended up doing for the shaping for all the front and the back is I just eliminated one of the rounds of decreases, and so the hem, at least the shaping part, is just 2 rows shorter than pattern states if you follow the instructions, and I just didn't do the decreases during those 2 rows. So I also have a little bit more stitches, but I don't think it really matters because it's just for shaping. And so having like a few more stitches for each section, I don't think is really that big of a deal sizing wise. So it's going to be just a little shorter, I think. I'm hoping that because I am holding the boucle double, that maybe when it blocks, that maybe boucle doesn't block out that much. So, that is something that might not happen. It might not block out a lot, but it could happen if it's held double. I don't know, maybe because it's like extra heavy that it'll block out more. But it's going to be a bit of a like shorter. It is, I think, a pretty cropped, like the pattern, it's supposed to be kind of like a short vest kind of thing. And it'll be cute. Like, it's cute. I think it's cute like this. I actually haven't tried it on yet. I think it'll fit. I'm gonna try it on right after this, but I think it'll fit. It just made me nervous. That could also be the reason why I was knitting on this a whole bunch this week, because, worried about running out of yarn. And I did, kind of, but I made it work, and so I don't have to get any more yarn of this to make this work, or I don't have to rip it all out. Like, it'll just be fine. It's just a little shorter. So I'm pretty happy about it, that I was able to make it work with the yarn that I had, because I bought that yarn specifically to make this, and so kind of worked out really nicely. And so again, so this is not done yet. I have to do like the finishing, but the finishing on this and like the edging is all done with a non-boucle yarn, and so I do have one skein, same colorway, tawny, but in the worsted weight yarn from Explorer Knits, and so that should hopefully take care of all the edging, and I don't think that I need to worry about it. I only have one skein, but I feel like that should be fine. I think it might be I-cord edging around most parts of this, and then I have to make kind of like the whatever's going to do like the connected part right here in front of the vest. So that's kind of it. I'm hoping to get this done this week because that would be super nice, and then I can cast on another one of my Make 9 for the year. But yeah, this was actually pretty fun. This was a fun knit. It worked up really quickly because it's boucle held double, and yeah, it just looks really fluffy. It feels pretty weighty, even though it is just 2 skeins of boucle. But yeah, I'm excited. I think I will be more excited about this once the finishing happens, because then it'll make everything look a bit less like a blob, and have its own kind of shape. So that should be good. I hope I can do that this week, and if not, again, just maybe within the next couple of weeks to finish that, because that would be pretty cute. And so that was my final new cast on this week, was the teddy vest, and it is part of my Make 9, so feeling good about that goal and progress. I was hoping to cast on my March socks, because now it is March. I wanted to cast them on March 1st, but I got really busy. So, but I'm hoping to cast that on this week. I already have the yarn picked out. I have it picked out, right, all of my sock sets for the rest of the year. So that's not too much of a problem. I think I know what pattern I'm going to choose, but I'll let you all know what that is once I actually cast on. But I think it'll be another summerly pattern. So I'm really excited about that. So I'm hoping to cast those socks on this week. and get started on my March socks. So I think that is it for my knitted stuff. Let's go move on to my spinning stuff. It's kind of, so far, or lately, the spinning updates have felt probably like the same, even though they're slightly different, but it's basically kind of like the same deal. So I finished 2 little fiber things from my Nest Fiber holiday fiber advent, and so these were the 2 colors for this week. And this first one, the tonal, is a Punta Arenas wool, and it's this really pretty blue. I actually really like this shade of blue, and this wool, this fiber worked up. It was super easy to spin, and it was pretty, I want to say it was like kind of dense, like it draped like it was heavy. And then, you know how I talked about, there was one week where I talked about like when you're winding yarn into a center pull ball, that if it's like a really kind of like elastic yarn, or like it has that feeling, or it's like a bouncy yarn, when you take it off of the thing, that center hole that gets created, it just like it closes up that hole and it's like really tight. But like some yarn, if you use like a silk yarn, that hole stays there. Like the yarn doesn't like come together, it just like stays where it's at, like it's just not stretchy, I guess. And so surprisingly, that is how this one kind of acted too. Like not quite, like it's kind of a little bit stayed, or kind of went in a little bit, but it still kept its hole in the middle of the center pull ball. So I thought that was very interesting. But it was really easy to spin, super nice, smooth. Maybe just like this wool isn't like as soft as like a merino, but it's pretty soft and it's smooth. Kind of reminds me of maybe like a Corriedale, kind of sorta. But I thought that was really nice. And then a good old Rambouillet wool. I was surprised at how much I loved this, all of the colors that were in this. As I was spinning it, I was like, I really, really love how it looks. It's kind of, might be kind of hard to see, but when it was all laid out, the colors were in kind of like a rainbow colored order, but like different shades of like a red, right? Like it's more of like a raspberry and not like a red. And it was kind of like that for all the rest. Like it had this really nice kind of like, reminds me of like summer, just like warm, happy, tropical kind of like colors. And it just made me really happy. Like I really like looking at the colors on this one. I'm trying to make the camera focus on this yarn. But I really liked it. I'm really happy. Again, all of the multicolored ones for this, I'm doing in a kind of like fractal spin. And so there is like barber poling happening. But this makes me really happy. I really, really enjoyed that. So those were the 2 colors for this week. And I'm almost there. I have 6 more, which means 3 more weeks if I still continue to do 2 every single week. That's like 3 more weeks, and then I'm done spinning my entire Nest holiday advent, which is super exciting. It's been really fun. It's, again, pretty nice to just kind of like work on little bumps of fiber here and there, although I will say I'm kind of, well, that is why I started my sweater spin, is because I was like, I like the little bumps of different color that I can like have quick wins for those and for my spinning, but I was like, I think I'm ready for like a longer term spin. So, you know, I've talked about it before, and I started it last time I talked about it, but I did make some progress on my sweater spin. This is my, the fiber is ZZ Textiles Rambouillet fiber in the colorway Elberdrichel, and it's gorgeous. The more I work on this, or the more I spin this, the more I'm just like in love with these colors. They're all so dark, but it's like all like green, purple, blue, and like some red in there. And if you don't believe me that there's red, let me hold up a fiber thing so that you know I'm not crazy. There is red in this fiber. And so there is red in this fiber. And I think it just blends all so nicely. I can't wait to see what this looks plied up. I am aiming for hoping like a 2-ply DK weight yarn or maybe a sport weight yarn, and so that's kind of what I'm shooting for, but I am just kind of like spinning to whatever feels nice. And as you can see, I am spinning this on my electric eel wheel. I'm mostly doing that, and I mostly spin I would say my sweater spins on that, although I haven't done that many sweater spins. I think that this is my 3rd sweater spin. But I just like that it goes straight onto a huge bobbin, and so I don't have to really worry about running out of bobbins or anything. And so I believe that this is now 2.5 ounces of fiber, and I'm hoping to reach 5 ounces onto each bobbin before I start plying. And so that means I'll have 4 full bobbins, and then I can start plying on the 2 extras that I have, because the electric eel wheel came with 6 of those huge bobbins. So that's kind of the plan. So I'm just going to keep spinning on that every week. It'd be kind of nice if I could do 2.5. Actually, sorry. That was 2.5 total, but this has been 2 weeks since I'm working on it. So I don't know how much I worked on it this week. Did I just do 1 ounce? Or did I do 1.5 ounces? Either way, if I can just do at least 1 ounce, then I'll say at least 1 ounce every week on this. That would be kind of nice. I believe I have 20. I have 20 ounces total for this of fiber. So that should be pretty good. I'm hoping, planning to do more sweater spins this year in 1 year than I have before. The past 2 years, I did 1 sweater spin each year. But this year, I have more planned. So it would be kind of nice to get this sweater spin done. Like, this will be like my beginning of the year sweater spin. But yeah, it's fun working on it, and so I'm not like super concerned. It is nice to have my Nest holiday advent and then my sweater spin kind of like happening at the same time. And helps it keep the spinning pretty interesting. And kind of adjusting accordingly, because my Nest fiber I'm spinning on my ladybug wheel, which has the foot pedals, and then my electric eel wheel, obviously there's no foot pedals. You just basically press start. There is a pedal to press start, but then it just goes. So it's been pretty fun to kind of like switch back and forth between those two. And yeah, it's been a good time spinning this past week. And then, I want to talk about one acquisition, because I am in the La Mercerie Year of Fiber subscription, and so every month you get a 4-ounce braid of fiber. And I got March's fiber in. So if you haven't seen yours yet, although Jess from La Mercerie has posted this already on her Instagram, so I don't think that this would be a spoiler for anyone, but just in case you haven't seen the pictures, or you're waiting for yours and you don't want to see it, just a warning, I'm going to show it now and talk about it. Let me hold it up. This is for March. As I've said, this is from Hidden Pond Yarns, and I've never heard of this brand before, but this color is so pretty. It's blue, different shades of blue, and like a creamy white in there. It is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon, 22.5 micron. And the colorway just says March 2025. But it's really pretty, and I am so excited for this one because it is my first superwash merino. I've spun non-superwash merino before, and like a super fine merino, but never a superwash merino. And so I'm really excited to try this, just because I've heard that superwash merino is pretty slippery to spin, and so I want to see what it's like. And the fact that this has 20% nylon in it also, I was like, I could spin this for socks. That'll probably be what my plan is for this, is to spin this for socks. So yeah, I'm excited for that. The colors are really pretty. Jess put up, I think that she's probably going to have, like a sample spin of all of the fiber up on, for every month when the fiber comes out, so that you can have an idea on what it looks like spun up. It's so pretty, and so yeah, I'm just again looking forward to it. I think because there's so many kind of like contrasty, like the dark blue and the white, that the barber pulling that happens if you do a fractal spin just looks really nice. So yeah, I do really, really like this. I like the superwash, like already just like holding this, and it's so soft, and it does kind of feel like it could be a little slippery. So I am just really excited to try this out eventually. So yeah, so that's my one acquisition for the week. Okay, before I sign off for this week's video, I want to make sure I mention that actually next week there will be no video because I am going to be out for the whole weekend, and so I won't have time to film. But if you're keeping track, actually next weekend is Rose City Yarn Crawl. So I am going to be there with my friends. We're all going, and it's going to be really fun. So I don't know yet what our like specific itinerary is on where we're going to be, but it'll be my first time doing Rose City Yarn Crawl. So I'm super excited. It finally worked out this year for me to go. I think the previous years something always ended up happening during that weekend, and so I could never go. So this is my first time going to Rose City Yarn Crawl. Just so excited for that. Looking forward to. I don't think I have specific buying plans yet. But that reminds me that this week I should probably start kind of like looking into it so that I kind of like have a plan for the week. But the main plan is just to have fun and hang out with my friends. So that'll be really good. But that does mean, again, no video next week. So yeah. And yeah, I did want to just like mention and talk about some of the fun things that I've been working on, or not working on, but just like doing this past week/weekend. And also the reason why this video is being filmed and coming out a little bit later than normal is because my dad is here visiting me right now, and it's been really fun. We've been kind of like going out, eating food, doing some activities, but yeah, that does mean a little less knitting. So actually most of the knitting I did this week, which is still a lot, was done before he came up. Wanted to make sure I got in as much knitting as I could. And then yeah, there's not too much knitting has been happening this weekend. So like yesterday, which was Saturday, I think I just knit on my grid Gambit cowl like a couple rows, and that was it. So, and then same for today. I don't think I didn't knit at all today, which is a Sunday. So I normally get a lot of knitting done on the weekends, but not this weekend. So maybe it's good that I won't have a video next weekend because I don't think I'm going to have that many updates. But anyway, what I have been doing lately, it's been really fun. I went to a Kraken game, a hockey game, NHL game for the first time last night, and it was really fun. I've been telling myself ever since, I think, the Kraken, because it is like a new-ish team to Seattle. I want to say maybe a few years old, and I've always told myself, like, well, I ice skate, and so I probably should go see a hockey game at some point, and, it never happened until last night. My dad wanted to go see the game, and it was kind of planned out before he came up. Like, he wanted to come up during a weekend when there was a Kraken game here in Seattle, and so we went, and I had a great time. It was pretty lively. There was a lot of people there, but it was pretty fun, and they won. The Kraken won. They were playing against the Canucks, Vancouver, so that was, it was pretty cool, and it was like cool that they won, that we went to a game where they won, so that was really nice, and had a good time. I want to go to more games, I think, so that was super fun, but it also was late at night, and I was so tired, so I slept in this morning. And what else did we do? I played pickleball this morning with my dad, and that was fun too. This was, I guess, my second time that I've played pickleball, and when I say play, it's just like, we don't really follow the rules. The main thing is just like, I want to just like be able to hit the ball with the paddle, because I feel like my hand-eye coordination is not the best, So I am kind of surprised. I think I'm getting better at it, but I am always surprised when I end up hitting it. I'm like, oh, it worked this time. I do miss the ball a ton. Like, I'll swing and it's like all the way on the other side, and I don't even touch the ball. So it's always a win for me when my paddle does end up touching the ball. So that's kind of cool. That was a fun time. We did some gardening at the house, some yard work. Really nice that my dad helped out with that. We've just been hanging out, eating lots of good food. Yeah, so it's been a good time. Just been busy. I'm kind of tired. So yeah, tomorrow's Monday, back to work. And so I work from home, but you know, still working. So just have to kind of get back into that. But anyway, I think that's all the updates I have for you all this week. Again, no video next week, so sorry about that. But hopefully the week after that, I'll have a lot to share with you because I'll have Rose City Yarn Crawl to talk about, and just like that whole experience, and also show you. I'm pretty sure I'm going to buy stuff from that, so I'll have those acquisitions to talk about. Oh, one thing I did want to mention was that I did not, if you are also like an Explorer Knits fan, you'll know that they were at La Mercerie on Bainbridge Island yesterday, which was Saturday, March 1st. And because my dad was here, I couldn't go, but I did have friends who went, and so I'm looking forward to catching up with them to hear about how it went. But it's so funny that, like, I think even last year I couldn't go to the Explorer Knits pop-up. I went to the first one, which was probably 2 years ago, but I couldn't go last year, couldn't go this year. But I have friends who went, and so I'm excited to hear about how it went. If you went, let me know how it went for you, and if you got anything, and what kind of yarn. I guess if you were going and you wanted to buy yarn, what you ended up getting or wanting to get. If you're going to Rose City Yarn Crawl, let me know what your plans are too. That would be pretty cool. There's like a lot of places to go to for that. We're obviously not gonna hit everywhere, but yeah, I think it should be a fun time. Okay, so that is all. That is now all of the updates. I hope you all had a great week, and I hope you all have a great upcoming 2 weeks before I get to talk to you all again. I want to say thank you all so much for all of your comments on my Everything I Made in 2024 video. I will read through, I have like briefly looked through the comments and I just need to respond to everyone, but thank you so much for watching. I'm glad I was able to keep you all company throughout the whole week this past week with the video. So yeah, and I'm, just already thinking about how I can improve it for next year and all of that. So but yeah, thank you so much for all of your comments and just being so nice to me always. And I will see you all in 2 weeks. Bye.